Hi there guys, I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech, and in this video, I'll be unboxing and reviewing the Redmi Note 9 Pro. So guys, here's the box. Now the overall packaging looks pretty similar to all the previous Redmi phones, but the phone itself looks pretty different from the preview up front. By the way guys, this is a retail unit. So let's have a quick physical overview of the box itself. So on the front we have the phone's preview, both the front and back, which by the way looks pretty cool. I wish bezels were as slim as the preview. Anyway, on the top right corner we have the MI branding. On the left side we have storage information. By the way, this phone is available in two variants. Base variant is priced at 13,000 rupees and it comes with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. Next variant is priced at 16,000 rupees for 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. It's available in three colors: Interstellar Black, Glacier White and Aurora Blue. And we have the black color. Now back to the box. On the left side and right side we have the phone's name, that's the Redmi Note 9 Pro. On the back side we have some of the most highlighting features, which I'll come back to you in a minute, and that's it. For a quick comparison between the Redmi Note 8 Pro and the Note 9 Pro, with this phone you're getting a better display, at least with a punch hole design, which looks way better than a water drop notch. Next, this phone also comes with a Snapdragon 720G processor instead of a MediaTek processor. When it comes to performance, it is debatable. Most people prefer Snapdragon processors over MediaTek, so the Note series is back with a Snapdragon processor. Besides that, this phone also has a massive 5000 mAh battery compared to 4500 mAh on the Redmi Note 8 Pro. That means Xiaomi was able to squeeze in more battery in almost the same size and weight. Now besides that, you're also getting a slightly bigger display and a new fingerprint scanner on the right side, which by the way is not my favorite position. Anyway, we'll talk all about that later. Let me just unbox it. So once we open the box, first we have a smaller box. Let me just put that aside. Next we have the phone itself. So we'll come back to that later. Next we have an 18 watts fast charger inside the box, just like the Redmi Note 8 Pro. But for some reason, it's in white color now. Normally it's in black. Anyway, next we have a USB Type-C charging cable. Now let me just put everything aside and come back to the small box. So inside the box we have a SIM card ejector, some documentation which we'll never read. Next we have a soft silicone case with a dark tint to it, which is something I prefer over the regular transparent ones. Now back to the phone. Let me remove all these stickers. So guys, this is how the phone looks on the back and this is how the phone looks on the front. Now let's have a physical overview. On the back, this phone has a 3D curved Corning Gorilla Glass, and underneath it we have a blue film. This is a black color phone. For some reason it has a blue tint to it, and it also has that mirror effect. On the top we have the quad camera setup along with a single LED flash, and this camera bump is actually quite big. And all the cameras are protected by a Corning Gorilla Glass 5, which is something all companies should do. Finally, at the bottom we have the Redmi branding. Yes, not MI, just Redmi branding. On the front you get a massive display with a punch hole design, protected by a 2.5D curved Corning Gorilla Glass 5. This time, Xiaomi has used Corning Gorilla Glass 5 in three places: back, front and for the cameras. Now for the sides, on the right side it has a power and volume buttons. These buttons are nice and clickable, and the power button is completely flat, in fact slightly bigger and more flatter. And this power button also acts like a fingerprint scanner. At the top we have the secondary microphone for noise cancellation and the infrared blaster. On the left side, it has a SIM card tray housing 2 nano SIM slots along with a dedicated SD card slot. Finally, at the bottom, we have the 3.5mm audio jack followed by the USB Type-C charging port, primary microphone and the speaker grill. Now this phone has a thickness of 8.8mm and weighs 208 grams. Initial impressions, phone doesn't feel all that thick and build looks pretty cool, but the phone is definitely heavy, more on the heavier side. And as I've said, I really hate the fingerprint scanner, especially when the phone is locked and when you accidentally touch the fingerprint scanner, it always gives you a bad haptic feedback, like really bad haptic feedback, which is really annoying. Now let's try the case that we got inside the box. It's just a soft silicone case. Now this is how the phone looks once we put on the case. It has a slightly raised lip for the camera module, but that's almost negligible. And even on the front there is a tiny bit of raised lip. Once again, even that is negligible. Besides that, it has all the required cutouts. You also get a flap for the charging port, and there's also a cutout for the fingerprint scanner. Now this case can give you some extra grip and prevent smudges, but it won't give you any kind of drop protection. In fact, cameras and the display are pretty much exposed. So I would recommend you to get a better case as soon as possible. Now these are the complete specifications of this phone. On the rear, this phone has a quad camera setup with a 48 megapixel primary camera with f1.79 aperture, followed by an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera with f2.2 aperture with 119-degree field of view, followed by a 5 megapixel macro camera and a 2 megapixel camera for taking portrait shots. For selfies, you get a 16 megapixel camera inside that punch hole design, which also supports selfie slow-mo up to 120 fps. Now on the front, we get a massive 6.67-inch dot display with Full HD Plus resolution, 450 nits of brightness with 20:9 aspect ratio. It's protected by a 2.5D curved Corning Gorilla Glass 5 and also has anti-oil and anti-fingerprint protection coating. As for the rest of the specs, under the hood it sports a Snapdragon 720G processor with Adreno 618 GPU with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. Right out of the box, it will be running MIUI 11 based on Android 10. And powering all this is a massive 5000 mAh battery. So guys, those are the complete specifications. Now let me turn on the phone and set it up and come back to you in a second. So guys, this is how the phone looks once we turn it on and set it up. It's pretty much the same old MIUI, there's nothing new. So let's first go to the about page. So this phone is running MIUI version 11.0.3 based on Android 10, and as of now it is a February security patch, which is pretty great. And out of that 64GB of space, we get about 44GB of space for our user apps and user data, which is pretty low compared to other phones. As for RAM, out of that 4GB of RAM, we have about 2.2GB of RAM free right out of the box. Now let's check out the camera interface. So this is a camera interface for the rear camera, and it looks pretty similar to other Redmi phones or phones with MIUI. So we have a toggle at the center over here to switch between the primary camera, 2x, that's digital zoom, and the wide angle camera. So that's the toggle. So we got something new over here. It's called Pro Color, and it just makes colors look saturated. It's more like vivid mode on Oppo phones. Next we have 48MP mode. This phone has a 48 megapixel camera but just takes 12 megapixel pictures. So if you want to take 48 megapixel picture, you need to use this mode. Next we have portrait mode. Now this is the portrait mode for the rear camera, and we also have a toggle here. Using this slider, we can change the amount of background blur effect we want before taking a picture. By the way guys, when we move this slider, there's a haptic feedback, and the haptic engine on this phone is pretty bad. Well, I guess you can say that it's just like other Redmi phones. It should and it could be a lot better. Next we have a dedicated night mode for the rear camera, and it looks like we don't have a night mode for selfies. So this is how the night mode looks like. You have to hold your phone steadily to get better pictures. Next we have the regular panorama mode, followed by the pro mode. Now let's go back. On the left side we have the video recording mode. This one obviously supports 4K resolution, and you can change the resolution over here. And we can also record video using the wide angle camera. Just before recording video, just switch to the camera and hit record to record using the wide angle camera. And next we have short video, which just makes some pretty funny videos. And finally we have slow motion, and we can change the frame rate over here. Now let's go back to selfies. Now this is the interface for the front camera, and initial impressions, it doesn't look that impressive, at least as of now. Next we have video mode for front camera. Obviously it supports 1080p. We also have short video for selfies. And finally, this is new, slow motion for selfies up to 120 fps. So let me just try to say something, and here we have a quick preview. So that's slow motion using front camera. Next we have portrait mode for front camera, and once again using this slider over here, we can change the amount of background blur effect we get for portrait selfies. So that's pretty cool. And we also have panorama mode for selfies, so you can get a wide angle selfie in this way. So that way you get a wide angle selfie, and here's a quick comparison. So this is a regular selfie and this is a wide angle selfie. So it's pretty wide. So guys, those are pretty much the camera features. Now these are some sample shots. Now let's check the speaker loudness. So just a single speaker at the bottom. So guys, that was the speaker loudness. It's not super loud, but it's definitely sufficient for regular media consumption, ringtones and alarms. Now let's test the fingerprint scanner. This phone uses a power button as a fingerprint scanner, and this is how it works. You just touch it to unlock. I think positioning of this fingerprint scanner is pretty bad. Like, they really don't have a choice. If they went with an in-display fingerprint scanner, they had to go with an AMOLED display, and that will increase the cost. And if they place the fingerprint scanner on the back, it'll look pretty ugly and it will not be ergonomic as well. So they went with this kind of a setup, and as I've said you, personally I really don't like it. The same goes with the Poco X2. So anyway, fingerprint scanner is pretty fast, but as I've said, positioning is bad. Speed is good, and if you use the wrong fingerprint, you get a haptic feedback. Now whenever you lock your phone and accidentally touch the fingerprint scanner, it always vibrates, and that kinda gets annoying. So that's something I really noticed in just few minutes that I've started using this phone. Now let's test the face unlock feature. So this is in good lighting conditions, and it's pretty fast. I'd say it's faster than the fingerprint scanner. Personally, I would rather use the face unlock feature instead of the fingerprint scanner. Not that it's just fast, but it's more convenient. So in good lighting conditions, it is super fast. Now let's test it in low lighting conditions. So even in low lighting conditions, it is pretty fast. So there we go, that's low lighting conditions. Now let's test it in complete darkness. So even in complete darkness, it is working, and it's not super fast, but it's pretty usable, especially if you use it with features like raise to wake and double tap to wake. So guys, that was the face unlock feature and fingerprint scanner, and personally I'll stick with the face unlock feature as it's much more convenient than using this fingerprint scanner. Anyway, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think by commenting below. So that's pretty much it about this new Redmi Note 9 Pro. Like, there isn't much going on with this phone. The most highlighting feature about this phone would be this punch hole design, and considering the price, that's definitely pretty impressive. And as you can see, bezels on this phone are quite slim as well. So that's definitely a huge upgrade from Redmi Note 8 Pro. And I guess I've already mentioned it, this phone also comes with a massive 5000 mAh battery and still keeps the weight pretty much similar to Redmi Note 8 Pro at around 208 grams. With that said, when it comes to build, personally I think the build quality of Redmi Note 8 Pro is better than the Note 9 Pro. You might not be interested about Note 8 Pro, but it's just a quick reference. Anyway, this is the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Now before I conclude, these are the benchmark scores. So guys, this is the Redmi Note 9 Pro. Well, there are a lot of changes from the Redmi Note 8 Pro, but I guess the main changes would be a better display, a bad fingerprint scanner, better cameras, and bigger battery. My biggest complaint with this phone would be the weight. Except for that, everything is really good. In fact, I really think this is one of the best phones that you can get around 13,000 rupees. So guys, what do you think about this phone? Do let me know by commenting below this video, and if you're planning to buy this phone, use the link in the description. It always helps the channel. If you want us to make any specific video, tweet out to us with the hashtag AskGreedyTech on Twitter, and we will try to make it as soon as possible. I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech signing off. Have a nice day.